order, but it was about what you would expect from a quote-unquote average Yandy season. And I think that some of that gets lost because of what he did previously was so out of this world, MVP-like, that you look at his numbers this year and you say, oh, well, I was expecting a lot more than I really got.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays. From game analysis to player interviews, we've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Double Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays daily.
In every season up till now, they've gone to the playoffs, but you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game.
Okay, it is the point in the offseason where we sprinkle in player reviews, and that's what we will do on today's episode. And we have Mr. Yandy Diaz on the hot seat with these player reviews, like we do. What went right, what went wrong, the player's future with the team, and the ultimate red pin grade. So without further ado, Ulises, Yandy Diaz, what went right with Mr. Diaz?
What went right is that he played a career-high 145 games this season. He had a slash line of 281, 341, a 414 slug. That is a 755 OPS. Let's start with the positives. Like you said, I was gonna change a little bit my tune there, but let's stick with the positives. First of all, he crushed the four-seam fastball this year. He hit it to a tune of 351 and a slug of 519. He really was able to turn around his season. Let's put it that way in the positive side of things. To have the wherewithal and the experience to say, just because I'm having a bad month to start the season, that doesn't need to equate what the whole next 5 months will be. I think that's really something about him, who he is, and his work ethic. He just kept battling. If you take out his April numbers, I mean, he really was almost as good as 2023. Not as good, but almost as good if you take the April month out of the way.
Yeah, in fact, if you want to look at it, and we can highlight and underscore on the what went wrong side, his April, because it was pretty bad. Not as bad as Randy Rosarena, who's no longer in the team, clearly, but it was definitely un-Yandy-like. But the ensuing 5 months were really righting the ship for the rest of the season. And if you look at it, I think that his numbers overall this season basically encapsulates what you would expect from a typical Yandy Diaz season. Maybe not in terms of the plate appearances and the games played being a career high, but if you take all the numbers from day one being with the Rays to today, divide it by 162 or average it out to 162, about what he wound up with is probably what you would expect. 280, 14 bombs, 65 RBI, maybe a little more here and there, but again, it takes two to tango. You got to have some players on your roster that can get on base and you can drive them in, and depending on where you are in the batting order. But it was about what you would expect from a quote-unquote average Yandy season, and I think that some of that gets lost because of what he did previously was so out of this world, MVP-like, that you look at his numbers this year and you say, oh, well, I was expecting a lot more than I really got.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, because if that 2023 year didn't happen, I think we would all be pretty happy with his season. Again, he did struggle in the beginning of the season. That we can't avoid that, but the way that he turned around, and ultimately the stat line, if you look at it, you're really not that displeased with it. I mean,
No.
it's pretty good. The problem is, like you said, it comes after a career year where everybody's really focused, but on what happened. Like, for example, the hard hit percentage, it decreased. This year, it's still in the 89th percentile.
Yeah. If you look at his Savant page, there's a lot of red, and that's a good
Right.
thing, folks, as far as average exit velocity, hard hit percentage, bat speed, squared up percentage, chase percentage, strikeout percentage, all pretty good when you combine it all together.
100%. 100%. Was there anything other than the things that we've pointed out as a positive for you?
No, I think you just about covered it. I think it is very impressive that he played as many games as he did. That's normally something we don't see from Yandy. I think a lot of that has to do with a byproduct of no longer having to worry about third base, getting his body right, DH, first base. At his age, I think that's a perfect role to slide him in. Yeah, he had a couple nicks and bruises, but I'll never complain about Yandy Diaz playing 145 games and 621 plate appearances. That led the team on all fronts. He also led the team in doubles, in RBI, which is probably a shame, not necessarily the doubles, but the RBI, the fact that your team leader is 65. Like, that tells you how few and far between the offense was this season. And generally, I don't know, maybe I'm just not looking at enough film of him from previous years, but he did seem to really utilize that. It seemed like he had an open stance to the max. Whether that helped him, whether that hurt him, I don't really know. But what we did see a lot this year was him attacking the middle of the field in the gaps, whether it's single, doubles, whatever it may be. So Yandy Diaz, with a guy of his size, you always want to see more power, more juice, but compared to what pretty much everybody else on this offense did, Yandy Diaz is about the least of our worries, I would say. One of the
least of our worries. Yeah, right there with Brendan Lau, who we've also discussed. But yeah, I think we're gonna get into it right now with the negatives in a little bit. But the 755 OPS, if you could change one thing to really make it like an okay year, I think that's the issue there with him and in this season. Well, last thing, I want to agree with you. 65 RBIs leading the team. It's just like when we said Brendan Lau led the team with 21 home runs. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that the team is not going anywhere with those numbers. I'm sorry, you might not care about RBI. Like, no team in the history of anything has ever been successful when their team leader has 65 RBI.
The only way that works is if 8 other guys are getting you 65 RBI, and that's not really reality by any means.
Right, so exactly.
It's a shame. All right, we have more to discuss, but first we have to tell the audience a couple very important things, like FanDuel, for example. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So good, I'll repeat it again. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
maybe you were watching the Dodgers put up really good numbers of Clark Schmidt early in the game, and you slept wrong, okay, on the couch, okay. It happens to all of us, and you wake up and you're a little bit aching. You're like, what's going on with my back? Is it just because I'm laughing so hard at the Yankees' demise? Like, what's going on? It's not that. Besides that, that's a factor. But the other factor is, hey, you gotta get checked out, and you can do that at the Joint. Go to the Joint. You don't need to schedule anything. They accept walk-ins. That is a fantastic thing. Another thing, by the way, you can have evening appointments and you can see them on the weekends. So that is for you the best thing ever. And if we can add one more best thing, is their deal. As a Bucks fan, as a Rays fan, you can get your first visit for just $19. Head over to Buccaneers.com, check out the contest and promotions section under the fans tab, and download this offer right now. Again, $19, people. A great deal for great fans. Head over to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location today.
All right, moving on, continuing with Yandy Diaz. What went wrong with him, Ulises?
Well, we talked about the hard hitting, the hard hit percentage decreasing, although you can look at that as a positive because he's still in the 89th percentile. Yeah. The walk rate, however, did decrease 2.7% over year over year. He was chasing and whiffed a bit more than he did in year over year in league standards. The sprint speed, my goodness, that took a tumble, bro. I mean, it took from the 32nd percentile to the 10th percentile. I believe we're now at a point with Yandy where it's not like station to station, but it's real close. It's real close.
That's unfortunate. And to piggyback off of it, not that he was going to hit his way out of double plays, but that even becomes more of a factor going forward and not in a good way. Look, what do we know about Yandy Diaz? Yes, he'll hit some home runs. Yes, he'll hit line drives, but he'll also ground chuck the ball as well. If you look at the launch angle percentage and all those types of numbers, he hits a lot of ground balls, for better or worse. And he had 12 grounded double plays this year, one of the highest on the team. And I mean, that's kind of obvious when you consider the amount of games played in at bats, but that's not a really good number. And it's a route killer. And I only see it continuing to be an issue if he continues to fall off the face of the earth with his speed or lack thereof. So that is something to watch out and monitor. As good as Yandy Diaz is offensively, I hate grounding into double plays, and it could rear its ugly head even more so going into the future with him.
And this is where people that, might hear us say, hey, just put the ball in play. You never know what can happen. And they're like, no, I'd rather see the strikeouts. This is what they mean. This is what they mean when they say, you know what, I'll rather take a guy that's giving me 200 strikeouts because at least he's not grounding into double plays. Like, I'll take one out better than two. And obviously there is some sense into that. I will still choose to put the ball in play. In most cases.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a thing with him, and it's always been a thing with him. The issue with him and with Randy, for example, is that when you hit the ball so hard, you're really not giving yourself a lot of margin of error to leg out and have yourself be safe at first base. Like,
right.
The margin of error comes a little bit closer. Now, if you're fast, you can shrink that and you can get back into it and hopefully make it a play. Yandy ain't doing that. He's not doing that. So then it's now a for sure thing. When you have a launch angle of 5 degrees, you're hitting the ball hard still in the 89th percentile. Grounded into double plays is going to be happening quite often.
Yeah, commonplace for sure. We also have to note, while he was relatively healthy this year, he did battle some knee and elbow issues in August. And then going back to it, we mentioned it earlier in the pod, the lowly April that he had. The numbers are ugly. If you look at the batting average, the on base percentage, the OPS, it is very not typical of Yandy Diaz. The reasoning for that, I don't know if we've ever gotten a concrete answer. There's been some theories out there. One of those was the quote unquote beef with Randy, who likewise struggled in April. And Yandy doesn't seem like this type of guy, but maybe he was riding high off the 2023 season. Maybe he was like, I got this in the bag. I don't need to work as hard or put in the effort. I'm good to go. Or maybe it's just getting a little bit older, takes him a little bit longer to warm up and get settled in. There could be a number of things off the field, family issues that could factor into why he was having trouble that first month plus of the year before he got it back on track.
And let's remember what happened on the weekend of the All-Star game. He became a father. So if I've never had a child, so people that have had children on YouTube,
and you never want to,
feel free to comment on this. But from July till April, that's 4 plus 5, that's 9 months. I don't think that babies are having a cool schedule, a cool sleeping schedule for the first 9 months of their lives. I would think that that's pretty hectic. And so, yeah, maybe you're a little bit more tired. It gets the body a little bit more difficult to get going. And maybe you're, obviously thinking a lot more of this new human being you've created with somebody else.
Yeah, it could be a locking in thing of, you had the whole off season. When did you say the baby arrived?
It mid-July was the All-Star break.
Okay, so he mid-July of 2024, 2023. 23. Okay. So maybe you have a whole off season spending with your family, rearing the child, and then having that breakaway period maybe weighs on you a little bit until you can finally, I don't want to say let go, but let go in a way. And it's like, okay, now I got to kind of lock in and get ready.
Let's say, let's say compartmentalized. Like he was able to compartmentalize maybe a bit better. And I think all of these things could be factors. I wouldn't say that he didn't. For me, for example, I don't think that it's like, oh, I had such a great year, I'm not going to work as hard. But I do think that I had a great year last year. I got this. Yeah. So maybe you take the ball off. You might not.
You got that contract extension. You're still getting paid regardless.
It's the little things. The little things of like, paying it that extra video you didn't watch. Yeah. That extra whatever, the scouting page. You read 3 out of 4 instead of the 4 out of 4. Just stuff like that. Just because you grow a little bit of confidence that from the year prior that could have possibly affected him.
That's fair. All right, we have more to discuss, Yandy's future with the team, and we give him the ultimate grade. But first, we have to tell the audience something very important, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. They've also invented what they call flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So I'll repeat it again. Download the app today, the PrizePicks app that is, and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Yandy Diaz, 2025. He is owed $10 million by the Rays. He will be in his age 33 season, just looking forward a tad, 2026 at age 34. There's a $12 million club option, and then he is a unrestricted free agent in 2027 at the age of 35. But the big question is, opening day 2025, Ulises, is Mr. Yandy Diaz on the roster?
That's, I think, one of the biggest questions of this offseason. I will add that in 2026, that club option, I believe, has no buyout. So the 2025 season could be pretty big for Yandy Diaz financially, because if he has a down year, the Rays or any other team could say, well, there's no buyout. Why are we going to do 12 mil? So the 2025 season, I would say, is incredibly important and dear to Mr. Yandy Diaz. Now, to your original question.
You can't have a bad April.
No. Yeah, you gotta start doing well pretty soon. Will he be a Ray in 2025 opening day? You know what? I hope so. I hope so, because not only I believe having Yandy Diaz makes you a better team, given the possible alternatives, given the possibility that this team might not have a lot of money to spend on free agents, given Hurricane Milton and all of that damage that is going to be not all of it is going to be insurance people. I don't think so. I think the Rays are going to have to put some coin there. It's going to be tough to get better without Yandy Diaz. So in that case, I really do hope so that he's back. But you never know with the Rays, because if there's a deal that they have in mind that could potentially get him better, maybe not for 2025, but for 2026, they might pull the trigger on him.
They always think one eye on the present, one eye on the future, and we have to remember that he very well could have been one of the guys that was traded in July at the deadline. He was being actively shopped around, but I guess there were teams out there that wouldn't meet the Rays asking price. So we'll have to see if that asking price has gone down, or if the Rays are thinking, they're playing chess when everybody else is thinking checkers of, you trade Yandy Diaz, but you have a plan for that and a backup plan for that. It just concerns me a little bit, because I suppose the idea would be that, okay, Xavier Isaac's not ready, Trey Morgan's not ready, some of these other prospects aren't ready. We can just move Brandon Lau to first, but then you're banking heavily on Chris Morel and some others. So they must, I would say this, if Yandy Diaz isn't on the Rays opening day roster, they must know something we don't know about Chris Morel and some of these other guys really popping off, because I don't think you're in a position to afford what little offense you do have to get rid of that offense. And if there's a, whatever clubhouse issue there was previous in 2024, I would think some of that's been rectified with Randy no longer being a part of the program, that you should be in okay straits right now. So I'll just throw that out there.
Remember when the team couldn't hold on to Harold Ramirez anymore because they just needed a little bit something else, even though he was a lefty masher? Like you had to get better than Harold Ramirez. Well, you know who doesn't struggle at all with lefties is Yandy Diaz. He hit 346 this year, and with a 923 OPS and 4 home runs against lefties, and not bad at all. And that was only 139 plate appearances. So, I know you might not want to pay a guy $10 million to be platoon-ish with maybe Bilao at first base, and they can just do a little bit of first base DH when you need both of them in the lineup. But again, you are looking at those two guys were the best position players in 2024. So to deal one or the other without really getting a lot back. I don't care if Chris Morel is the next version of Isaac Paredes. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough. If Morel pops off, it's not enough. And then you might be telling me, well, Curtis Meade can pop off, or, well, Jonathan Aranda finally can get a chance if Yandy Diaz is traded and he can pop off, or Junior Caminero is going to pop off. Josh Lowe is going to be back to standards. How many of those are for sure things? None of, I mean, I really like one-ish.
Or maybe let's have everybody pop off and have Yandy Diaz still on the team. That could work too.
That could work too, exactly. Yeah. But are those $10 million going to hamper you? Is his at-bats clogging up opportunities for someone, a Aranda, Meade, whoever you want to put in there? I think that is the biggest thing. But you don't get better offensively with this team if you don't have money for free agency, like apparently you won't, and when you deal one of the best two players of the team.
Well, that's why Eric Neander gets paid the big bucks to make those calls and questions and decisions. All right, red pen time. What grade are you giving Yandy Diaz?
Last but not least, I should add one of the things for Yandy to be considered. What has been the biggest boogaboo with this position player club house that has been lacking for like the last 4 years?
As far as clubhouse or
in the position player pool?
Veteran leadership, guidance, connection to the Latin players.
It came to you first. Veteran leadership. Who are the veterans here? Brennan Lau and Yandy Diaz.
Yeah.
And you just said it too with the Latino players as well. Yandy is going to be that guy. He's 33. He's a dad, for God's sakes. All right.
Yeah.
Red pen. I think I'm going to go with 86.
That's exactly what I had in my mind. No lie. 86.
Yeah.
Solid B.
Yeah. Solid B. I can't give you a B+ because it's not a B+ season, but a solid B.
Yeah. I guess, to put it another way, if you play that amount of games and have that many amount of at-bats, plate appearances, I want to see a little bit more offensive beef. So I would just put it like that. All right. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoy. For your next listen, check out Locked On MLB, prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, our buddy. He's got it all covered every single day. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast.